All right, guys, we are just a handful of days away now. NFL draft less than a week away. It's creeping up right on us, and I'm excited. I think all football fans are. We're breaking down the last bits of game tape and stats and draft profiles. If you're like me, you've spent a good chunk of today going over things for the last time, trying to figure out what you really want and what you're really expecting. So I'm going to go ahead and make one last NFL draft video. And what I say in this video is just going to go ahead and stand for the at least first couple days because this year I'm not going to be around for the draft. The last couple drafts I've been able to make videos right here as the picks come in, and I've been able to give you my live, honest reaction. It's possible that I could still be making videos for the draft during the draft, but I'm definitely not going to be able to do very much research, and I won't be here. I will be somewhere else. So if you do see me make some videos, you're going to see me in a completely different location. I am going on vacation for a little bit. So yeah, it's not going to be like it usually is. I just had the opportunity to go somewhere, and it just so happened to be on the weekend of the NFL draft. So I'm going to follow it. I might not get to watch it, and whatever I end up doing, I'm not going to be able to break down and analyze and offer live coverage of what I think this means for our team and what it means for the rest of our picks. That's not going to happen. So I'm going to try to do as much as I can right now. I'm going to go through the first three rounds from a Seahawks perspective because at that point, once you get down to the fourth round, who the hell knows? Some mid first round pick might have fallen to the fourth round for all you know and just screws everything up. So I'm not going to go any further than that. But that also means I'm not really going to be able to offer live coverage as the draft goes on and as weird stuff happens. So, going to be a long video. I'm going to try to pound through this quick as I can. Sorry to anybody who's disappointed. No whiteboard tonight. I would like to use the whiteboard for this, but I would have to erase it and rewrite it so many times because I got so many players and so many draft spots I want to talk about here. It's just going to have to be me, so listen to me carefully, listen to the names I say, listen to my coverage, and I'll try to add some graphics on the bottom of the video maybe as well, but I got to just kind of go as fast as I can here. All right. So, Seahawks have 4 draft picks, a measly 4 draft picks in this draft. We are not happy about it. Team is not happy about it. I, as a fan, am not happy about it. But that's what happens when you trade for Sheldon Richardson. That didn't work out so great. And Dwayne Brown. That worked out great. So, you take the sweet with the sour, unless you like sweet and sour stuff. Whatever you want to say. So, we think that we are going to trade down. I don't know how much we're going to trade down, but I think most people are under the impression that we are not going to pick day one. But let's entertain the possibility that the Seahawks just stay put at number 21, the 21st pick, and use that because we haven't done that in a while. Let's entertain the possibility. If the Seahawks stay put in the first round, here are the names that I like that I think we can get in order from most appealing to least appealing for me after doing a bunch of research today. Number 1, and I don't think this guy is going to be here, but I think it's possible, Montez Sweat, defensive end out of Mississippi State. The only reason why I think he's even a possibility is he's got some kind of heart condition, irregular beating or something, and some teams are straight up like saying, no, we don't want this guy. We are taking him off our draft board. We are not even considering him. We don't trust it. And I'm not saying I trust it either, but Montez Sweat is like the 13th ranked prospect on ESPN right now. And if the 13th ranked prospect falls to 21, we have to at least think about it. And I am so into what he has physically, I might be okay with taking the risk. 6'6". This guy is 6 feet 6 inches tall and runs a 4.41 40, which, for those of you who don't know, 40 times is freakish for a defensive end. Last 2 seasons at Mississippi State, 22.5 sacks and 30 tackles for loss. So he's productive. He's a physical specimen. The holes in his game that I've been able to determine are minor things that can be worked out over time. I mean, this would be the home run for me. The only real concern here is the heart condition, but he is productive and he's a physical freak. So if he somehow was there at the 21st pick, which, you know, forget it if you want my honest opinion, but enough teams are saying like, hey, we don't want to mess with this guy, that it's on the table. So that would get me the most excited. Number 2, if we stay put, Marquise Brown, wide receiver, Oklahoma. Last 2 seasons, he has 132 receptions for over 2,400 yards and 17 touchdowns. He is fast. He's a deep threat. Looking him up, he made me think of Tyler Lockett. A lot of people are concerned that he's undersized, but he's very, very fast, and he's been productive. He is not just a track star. He is a football player. There is concern about his ability to absorb hits and play, NFL football every Sunday for the whole season, but seems like these are the kinds of guys that Wilson works the best with, the fast, quick, deep threats. He's turned Tyler Lockett into one of the best receivers in football, and Doug Baldwin, who wasn't even looked at as a wide receiver in the NFL, really, also turned him into one of the best receivers in the NFL, and those guys are small, fast, quick. Those just seem to be the guys that work well with Wilson. Okay, number 3, Greedy Williams. I don't know his real name, but Greedy Williams, cornerback out of LSU. He's 6'2", so he's pretty tall, and he's got a 4.37 40 time. He was playing against some of the best competition in college football at LSU, playing with some of the best teammates in college at LSU. He's big, he's fast, and over the last 2 seasons, he has 8 interceptions, so he's also got good ball skills. Just seems like a really good all-around corner prospect, and I have to believe that Pete Carroll could work a number on this guy. Number 4, DK Metcalf, wide receiver, Ole Miss. Mostly, he's a workout warrior. He did not produce that much in college. I think he got hurt a lot, so red flag, red flag. But he's 6'3". Dude is tall. Dude weighs 230 pounds, so he's big. And he runs a 4.33 40, which is one of the fastest 40 times in the combine this year. So DK Metcalf, you are taking the chance. He hasn't really proven he's a great football player yet, but his combination of size and speed is so appealing that we have to at least think about it, because we could use a big receiver. Right now, our 2 best receivers are smaller, quicker, shiftier guys. Somebody who's 6'3" like DK Metcalf and somehow doesn't sacrifice speed with that size. Appealing. 5th option, if we stay put, that I would be interested in would be Byron Murphy, cornerback, Washington Huskies. Of course I know him. I've seen him last several years. Physically not that impressive, but his instincts and his ball skills are off the charts. I know for a fact. He doesn't necessarily measure up in terms of size or speed or bulk or anything like that, but last 2 seasons he has 6 interceptions. He's versatile. He's played some. I think you could move him to safety as well. He's an excellent run defender. He's got great instincts. I would be interested to see how he did in this system, but the lack of physical gifts turns me off a little bit. So Byron Murphy, number 5. Last guy that I would be interested in taking if we stay put, Chris Lindstrom, offensive guard out of Boston College. Just sounded like the kind of guy who I don't know if Mike Solari would get excited about, because he didn't sound like he was that big or bulky. We know he likes offensive guards who are bigger and taller and stuff like that, but really good player, really good making blocks at the 2nd level as well as the 1st level. 2-time all ACC and 1-time All-American. So I don't really want an offensive guard because I don't feel like it's a need, but it's not a need either. So I'm going to throw them in out there. Those are the 6 guys that I want if we stay put. And by the way, if you can hear my sugar gliders back there running around, sorry about that. They're running around in their wheel right now, and you might be able to hear them. So that's if we stay put. If we trade down a little bit, because we could trade down to the bottom of the 1st round. We could trade down with a team like, I don't know, the Patriots, the Rams, the Chiefs are down there. Who knows? But if we do that, the guys that I like, Clelin Ferrell, defensive end out of Clemson. Last 2 seasons been productive. 21 sacks and 38 tackles for loss. So I like that because I'm going to keep saying it because I think it's true. I think the one thing that is holding this team back on being great next year would be our pass rush. We have one really good pass rusher right now, and Farrell succeeded at a high-profile school. 21 sacks the last 2 seasons. Pretty solid. Number 2 is Taylor Rapp, another Washington Husky boy who I'm very familiar with. He played safety. He's got good instincts, like Byron Murphy did. He found himself around the ball a lot. He did a lot of different things from the safety spot the last 2 seasons. Almost 120 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 6 sacks, 3 picks, and 3 forced fumbles. Again, not gifted physically. He's not big or fast, but he plays the game really well. And, if I look at what Pete Carroll has done with guys who are kind of like that, Byron Maxwell had no speed at all, and we turned him into a really good cornerback. He got good miles out of other guys who weren't necessarily the most physically gifted players in the world. So I'm interested to see what he would look like in a Seahawks jersey. Last guy I want to take a look at if we trade down to the late first round would be A.J. Brown, wide receiver, Ole Miss. Another guy who is not physically great. He's not extremely tall or fast, but he was productive. Last year, Ole Miss really used him a lot. 85 catches, 1,320 yards, and 6 touchdowns. So very productive. That's what we're looking at here. Just a guy who knows how to run his routes. Just a guy who knows how to get open. I'm not crazy about this one just because I like my receivers to be clearly gifted in a particular area in a way that really, like, when I see it, I'm immediately like, whoa, that guy's tall, or that guy's fast, or that guy's quick. I don't know if A.J. Brown is that, but I would include him as a guy I would consider taking in the late first. So that's everything in the first round. As you can see, a lot of the names I'm mentioning here, names I've mentioned in previous videos. Some of them are new. Some of them I didn't know about. Some of them have made themselves an option in recent months by doing good things at the combine and just getting hype built around them. Okay, second round. Like I said, I think we're going to trade down, and there's a very good chance. I think the most likely scenario is these Seahawks trade down to the early, middle second round, somewhere in that 33 to 48 range. And if we do that, I think the most likely scenario is we take a defensive back. I have heard a ton of buzz around this team really liking a lot of the options at defensive back in the second round. So if I had a prediction, this would be it. So my favorites are Darnell Savage, safety out of Maryland, my number 1. He is freakishly fast for a safety, 4.36 40 time. And last year, his senior year, I think it was, 83 tackles from the safety spot, 5.5 tackles for loss, 7 interceptions, 10 pass deflections. I think I have that right. That might be a combination of his last 2 seasons, his junior and senior year. Either way, this is a guy who has a nose for the football. This is a guy who has good coverage skills as well as good skills against the run. I mean, nobody's going to be Earl Thomas, especially not immediately, but Darnell Savage has the speed to be a great NFL safety. And if anybody can bring out that talent, it would probably be Pete Carroll. So Darnell Savage is my number 1. I just can't say no to that freakish speed and ball skills. Those ball skills, not necessarily common in college football. Number 2 choice, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He's a safety from Florida, but he also can play cornerback. He might play cornerback in the NFL. Who knows? Gives him a chance to use his ball skills. So last 2 seasons, 71 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 6 interceptions. He does it all. Just a guy who seems to have good instincts. Just a guy who seems to have versatility, which I know we are going to value because our secondary is a little in flux right now. We don't totally know what we have. So Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I'd love to get this guy in the early to mid-second round. Third name, Rock Yassin, cornerback from Temple. There's really nothing to say here except he's pure potential. His production, his ball skills, they're not there yet. He wasn't putting up numbers for Temple last year. He has very little experience. His game is raw, rocky, choppy, a whole bunch of other negative things you can say about this. It's not there yet, but it could be. And I had to put him here just because the idea of a guy like Pete Carroll getting a chance to bring all that out of him was really appetizing. But problem is, if Pete Carroll did bring it out of him, it probably wouldn't be for a season or two. So I don't know if we really want to do that. It's a long-term investment with a guy like Rock Yassin. We just don't totally know what we have. Number fourth name on this list, L.J. Collier. I know I've talked about him before. Defensive end from the TCU Horned Frogs. He spent most of his career coming off the bench as a situational pass rusher for the Horned Frogs. He was very productive, but he didn't play a ton of snaps. That's a little concerning. He seems like a guy who is smart, cerebral, and has good technique, but isn't that physically gifted. So you worry about how he's going to transition to the pros. But his only year as a full-time starter, which was this most recent season, 11.5 tackles for loss, 6 sacks. He was productive, not eye-popping numbers, but he seems like a good guy who has a good motor, and I would be okay with us taking him here. I'm just not convinced the pass rushing skills are going to translate well to the NFL, so I'm a little wary there. Next name, Nazir Adderley, cornerback / safety hybrid from Delaware. Seems to be a little flawed in his, his routes to the ball, his, routes to the tackler. He seems to overrun tackles a lot, and there are some things he needs to work on, but last 10 seasons, he's got 10 takeaways. So he's averaged 5 takeaways a season the last couple years. So he's got a nose for the ball. He's a ball hawk. So I have to put him out there. And the last name here, early mid-second round, N'Keal Harry, wide receiver out of Arizona State. He's got good size, 6'2", 230 pounds, so he's a big boy. Slow, though. He does not have speed. He does not get open. I don't know if I like that, but in college, he was productive. The last 2 seasons, 155 catches for 2,230 yards and 17 touchdowns. He was good at fighting for jump balls. He was good at finding a way to get up higher than everybody else and bring in passes, overcoming his speed. It has to at least be a consideration, even though I think he ran like a 4.6 40 or something not very good like that. And it sounds like he's not going to be able to really get open at the pro level. And the only guy I can think of that Wilson has ever played well with who did stuff like that was probably Chris Matthews. And that was for 1 game. So, not in love, but there's something to be said for that size and production. All right, late, mid-second round. We could trade down, get an early second-round pick and a late second-round pick. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see how the trades manifest themselves. But late to mid-second-round prospects that I like. Trayvon Mullen, cornerback out of Clemson. He's got good size and speed. 6'2", 200 pounds. Not huge, but nice and tall. And 6.46 40 time is solid, especially for that size. He's got 4 picks over the last 2 seasons, so pretty good. Not great, but it seems like there is some real potential there for him to be a prototypical Legion of Boom type cornerback. This seems to be the kind of guy that the Seahawks like. Next name, Oshane Ximines. I don't know how to pronounce that last name, but I've talked about him before. It's boom or bust. Defensive end from Old Dominion. So he was playing lackluster opponents. He has not seen anything like the offensive lines he's going to have to be playing against in the pros. I understand that. But over 4 seasons at Old Dominion, he had 51 tackles for loss, 32 and a half sacks, and he improved every year. Like his first year, he had like 5 sacks. Last year, he had 11 and a half. So he's clearly getting better. The main concern is who was he doing it against? And that is definitely a concern. My thing is that, we see this sometimes. DeMarcus Ware and O.C. Umenora played for Troy. And who does Troy ever play? And those guys were excellent pros. Number 3 on the late to mid-second round, Jalen Ferguson, defensive end from Louisiana Tech. Had a long, full career of production at La Tech. Again, not the best team, not the best competition, but over 4 years, full-time starter, I think all 4 years, 187 tackles, 67 and a half tackles for loss, 45 sacks. So he was consistently a double-digit sack guy. He got to the quarterback. But there are concerns about his measurables and his actual physical abilities. He did not do well at the combine at all. He looked slow. He didn't seem excessively strong or quick or anything like that. But when he was on the football field for 4 years at Louisiana Tech, he was productive. So I can't just ignore 45 sacks over 4 years, but I cannot ignore the fact that he had a horrible combine either. So if we take him, I'm going to know it's a big risk, but I'm also going to know there is a significant reward. Number 4, Justin Lane, cornerback, Michigan State. Purely because I like his skill set. He's 6'2" and he's physical. Sounds like a Legion of Boom cornerback. Not much production. There's concerns about his speed. Seems like he can get beat deep if he doesn't, hit the jam well. Seems like he does get burned over the top sometimes, but he sounds like a Legion of Boom cornerback to me, so I threw him out there. Last name, Chase Winovich. Doesn't seem like he's much of a pass rusher even at the college level. I'm not in love with it, but he is a well-regarded defensive end out of Michigan. Over the last 3 seasons, 43 tackles for loss, 18 and a half sacks. So seems like he's a better run defender than a pass defender or pass rusher. The sack numbers are not bad, but from what I read, it seems like he's not going to be a great pass rusher at the pro level, which is really what I want. So not in love with that, but I would be okay with that as well. Now, let's say the Seahawks make some trades and end up late in the second round, like the last few picks to the first couple picks of the third round. Also very possible. Let's look at some names here. Number 1, my favorite from this group would probably be Lonnie Johnson Jr., cornerback out of Kentucky, 6'2" and 215 pounds. He's got that Richard Sherman, Brandon Browner, Shaquille Griffin, Therod Simon, Trey Flowers type size. Everything else is a work in progress. Did not have good ball skills in Kentucky, did not have good production or stats or anything like that. But the prototype is there. He's got the size and he's got the weight. I like it. Let Pete Carroll go to work on that dude. Number 2, Deontay Thompson, safety out of Alabama. So you know how they produce some pretty good defensive players. There seem to be some concerns about his size, his durability. There seem to be, he's of course got some problems in his game, as you're going to find with anybody in the late second round. Last season, as a senior for Alabama, 78 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 2 picks, 6 pass deflections, and 3 forced fumbles. So he throws himself around. He's definitely a high-effort guy more than he is a dominant physical guy, but he produced at the highest level of college football last year. That's for sure. So I would sign me up for that. Number 3 on this list would be J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, wide receiver from Stanford. He's big, 6'2", 225 pounds, and he was productive as a senior. 63 catches, 1,059 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Good red zone threat. Not all that fast or quick or anything like that, but he found ways to use his talents for good. I'm not a huge fan of receivers who struggle to get open. I've seen enough of that the last few years with, be it Brandon Marshall or, hey, reaching the way back machine, Braylon Edwards. It's not fun to have receivers who can't get open. But JJ Arcega-Whiteside has the talents to overcome that. And the last name, Zach Allen, defensive end out of Boston College. I talked about him before. Productive, has a high motor, seems smart, just kind of goes to work and does his job. He's very good against the run. My concern is he doesn't seem like a great pass rusher, so I don't really want to commit myself to that. Over the last 3 seasons, almost 200 tackles, over 40 tackles for loss, and 16 and a half sacks. So you see the production, you see the good play, you see where he could be a good player. Right now, the pass rushing just isn't there. He's averaging 5.5 sacks this season, and that seems to be who he is. Okay, we are moving right on to the third round. We are getting into territory here where it's going to be tough because you just don't know what is going to cause a ripple effect in the first couple rounds that maybe causes one of these guys to go way higher than expected or way lower. But I'm going to do the best I can because, like I said, not going to be in town for the actual draft. Can't do live analysis. I'm going to be busy. Early to mid third round picks. If we end up here, because right now we don't have a pick here. Miles Boykin is my favorite wide receiver out of Notre Dame. 6'4", 220, big boy, 4.42 40 times. So he's fast too. He's not slow. That speed and that size combination, I love it. I like it. Go get me that, and I'm happy. 59 receptions, 872 yards, and 8 touchdowns last season. So not the most productive player. You are betting on his talent, and you are accepting the fact that his college production was not necessarily there, but that combination of size and speed to me is usually going to be a winner, so I like it. Number 2, Juan Thornhill, defensive back, cornerback, safety hybrid out of Virginia. He started full-time at Virginia for 3 seasons, 206 tackles, 12 of them for a loss, 13 interceptions, 26 pass deflections. Those are ball skills that you do not see that often in college football, I'm telling you right now. He can play both safety and corner. The production is there as you can see it. Not the most physically gifted, but he produces on the football field. I would love that. Number 3, Hakeem Butler, wide receiver out of, I believe, Iowa State. I've heard this about him, and I've heard that about him. Believe me, it's been everywhere. Some people say he should be a first-rounder. Some people say he should be like a 5th-rounder. It's all over the place, but seems to land somewhere in the 3rd round on most official sources. So what am I missing here, guys? One second. Somebody's going to have to explain this to me because what I saw when I looked him up was a guy who is huge, 6'5", 255. So he's got the size. He's got the height. 4.48 40, so not terrible. It's not great, obviously, but given his size, it's actually pretty good. 60 receptions, 1,300 yards, and 9 touchdowns as a senior. So you have your production as well. I like this guy, and if he actually is there in the 3rd round, I don't know what these other teams are doing. Maybe there's just something with him I'm not seeing. Obviously, there was some concern about his about how groomed he was for the pro game, about his ability to actually make tough catches, but I see it all. I like everything I see with Hakeem Butler. So go get me that 6'5", reasonably quick, productive receiver, and I'll be happy. Next up, Jameel Dean, cornerback from Auburn. There isn't much to say here except that he's pretty big, long arms, 6'1", 205 pounds, and he runs that 4.3 40. So you're betting on his talent. His production at Auburn, not great. He didn't do a ton in terms of actually producing on a football field, but the talent is there. And the last name I'm going to throw out there is Joe Jackson, defensive end from Miami. Been a full-time starter at Miami for the last 3 seasons. 129 tackles, 35.5 for loss, 22.5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles. So pretty good at getting after the quarterback. Not great, but intriguing option in the early to middle third round. Now we're going late mid third round. 4 names. I'm going to blow through them quickly here. Amani Hooker, safety from Iowa, as a senior last year, 65 tackles, 3.5 for loss, 4 interceptions, 7 pass deflections. There are some current concerns about the angles he takes on ball carriers and his tackling, but it seems like he has really good coverage skills. Seems like he's all over the place, ball hawk, just finds the ball in the air. And that's my number 1. We do have a pick in the late to mid third round right now. I know that much. Next name, Kelvin Harmon, wide receiver from North Carolina State. 6'2", 220 pounds, pretty big. Not fast, not slow, just fine. And the last 2 seasons, he's just been productive. 150 receptions, 2,200 yards, 11 touchdowns the last 2 years. Has to be something there. Next name, Michael Jordan, offensive guard / center. He can play guard and center from OSU. He's a big boy, 6'6", 310 pounds. He made all conference twice. He made all conference as a guard, all conference as a center. And not only do we have a need for guards, we also are about to have a need for center potentially, because Justin Britt, I don't think he's going to be here next year. So line that up, take that into consideration. We could use the offensive line depth. Last name, Julian Love, cornerback out of Notre Dame. Notre Dame doesn't really have the physical attributes you look for in a Legion of Boom corner, but the last 3 years he has 176 tackles, 6 of them for a loss, 5 picks, and hold on, 39 pass deflections over 3 seasons. You don't see that often. That's pretty much 1 pass deflection a game. Probably a little better, actually. So that alone is going to get my attention, and it should yours too. Okay, finally, late third round. If we end up with a pick at the bottom of the third or maybe the very top of the fourth, number 1, Andy Isabella, wide receiver out of Massachusetts, the fastest man at the combine this year, or at least he had the fastest 40 time of any prospect from this draft I could find. 4.31. He's tiny. He's like 5'9". But that blazing speed plus his production the last 2 years at Mass, 167 receptions, 2,700 yards, 23 touchdowns. He is not just a deep threat. He was a good all-around receiver. I mean, 5'9" is 5'9", but I don't think Tyler Lockett is much bigger than that. And Isabella is faster than Lockett ever was, I think, in terms of straight line speed. Bring that guy in and let him run go routes all day and draw double coverage or beat people over the top. I like it. Next name, another wide receiver, Terry McLaurin from Ohio State, I think. 4.35 40 times, so very fast. Not that small either compared to a guy like Isabella. Isabella was tiny. McLaurin is just normal sized. The production is not really there, admittedly. He was purely a home run threat in college for OSU. 35 receptions as a senior, 700 yards and 11 touchdowns. So he was a big home run threat guy, but not really an every down threat. But the reason why you guys should be excited about this, great special teams gunner. So you get him, you're not only getting a deep threat, big play receiver, you're getting a special teams gunner. Next name, Will Harris, safety from Boston College, 6'1", 205 with a 4.41 40. That is very good for a safety, guys. That's a decent size, and he's fast for a safety. I like both those things a lot. Over the last 3 seasons at Boston College, been generally pretty productive. 205 tackles, 7.5 for loss, 4 picks, and 6 fumble recoveries. So he finds his way around the ball a lot. Worst case scenario, you're getting a really good special teams player, but I think in the hands of a guy like a Pete Carroll, you might get a good starting corner safety out of him. Next name, this is purely a flyer. This is purely a what the hell pick. I can't find hardly anything about this guy in terms of his stats in college. I don't know if he was productive. I don't know if whatever he did in college means anything. I can't find his 40 time, but people are talking about Corey Ballentine, cornerback from a college called Washburn. I don't know what that is. I have no idea what a Washburn is, but for a guy playing for a nobody college, he is getting hyped. So he's doing something right. He clearly has some really impressive talent, but what does it mean? And can Pete Carroll bring it out of him? I gotta say, if anybody can, it would probably be him. Corey Ballentine. Next name, Kendall Sheffield, cornerback from OSU, purely because of his freakish 4.32 40 time, tremendous speed. He's got a lot to learn in terms of how to play the cornerback position. He's got a lot to learn in terms of how to, to pick up ball skills, but that speed plus Pete Carroll's tutelage could equal a really, really good cornerback one day. All right, number 6. We are near the end, people. Michael Dieter, offensive lineman from Wisconsin. This dude played tackle. This dude played guard. This dude played center. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say it. His actual performance in college indicates somebody who might get bullied a bit in the pros, but he can grow into it. He's big. He's 6'5" and 310. Size is not really a big concern. He was a 3-time all-conference player at Wisconsin. He was a 1-time All-American. And if he can grow into his frame, you have yourself a versatile offensive lineman who can play all the positions potentially. Has to be interesting, think about it. Last name, Marquis Blair, safety from Utah. We saw him play a few times as Husky fans. Good size and speed. He's 6'1" with a 4.48 40. That's pretty good. Last season, 59 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 picks. So reasonably productive. Probably more of a special team player, but that's valuable too. Our special teams are not very good right now. So that's it. That's everybody who I saw in the top 100 who caught my eye as somebody that we could go get. So that's a lot of names. That is, let me see here, 6, 9, 15, 20, 24, 29, 33, 40 names I listed. And we're probably going to get 2 or 3 of them. So, all I can say is it's nice to be at a point in my life where I can waste hours doing something like this and not have it ruin my entire month or something. So, who do you like? Did any of the names I listed catch your mind? If you want my final official prediction of who the Seahawks are actually going to draft and how they're going to do it, I think we are going to trade down to the early middle second round. I think we are going to take, my favorite is Darnell Savage, but I think we're going to take Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, versatile defensive back from Florida. I think that's going to be our first pick in this draft. That's my guess. And then I think we're going to end up with a late second round pick. I think we're going to end up with, I kind of don't really want to commit to any of the 4 defensive ends that I've spoken about in the past and in this video, but I'm going to say we go get O'Shane Ximenez, the Old Dominion defensive end. That's just my guess. And then I think we are going to, in the 3rd round, either trade up for Hakeem Butler, let Hakeem Butler fall to us, or failing that, we end up with Terry McLaurin, or Andy Isabella. So if I'm going to go ahead and commit to something in stone, I'm going to say Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, O'Shane Zimenez, and Andy Isabella. That's what I got. Agree, disagree, whatever you want to do down below in the comments. This video is way too long. I'm going to get back to watching NBA playoffs, basketball. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Last draft video until the actual draft, I think. Have fun.